For those of you that are not familiar with me, my name is Eric Ace Aura. I produce dubstep that is a combination of melodic and heavy, and I really like that sound, so I'm going to continue to do it for a very long time. I don't know what else to say about myself other than I really like making music, and I'm excited to show you guys how I do my stuff. I've done one other workshop for Defier. I'm going to move my laptop a little bit because it's intersecting with this other screen that I have this stream pulled up on. I've done one other workshop where I broke down 2 of my tracks from my latest EP, and that was really cool. And I'm excited to go over this one with you guys as well. I'm going to be breaking down 2 tracks. The first one is a track of mine from 2019 called Flow. I made it at the beginning of the year. It was my most popular single at the time, still is one of my most popular. And it was a really fun track to make, so I'm excited to break that one down. The second is a track of mine called Prism. It is an unreleased of mine. I'll explain more about it in depth once I break it down. But it's pretty neat, and I'm excited to do it and stuff. So I'm just going to hop right in since people are here. I'm going to play the track all the way through, and then I'm going to break down each individual section, show you how I did what I did, and yeah, let's just do it. Let me know if there are any audio problems or anything. And also, I want to clarify, throughout the stream, please ask questions, because that is how I know what will be beneficial to you and what you want to know about the track. Because I've had a pretty busy week, and I haven't had a super lot of time to figure out what I specifically want to go through in each track. So questions would be helpful for me and for you. All right, let's go. And that is Flow, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so this track for me, it was very fun to write. So typically whenever I work on a track, I have some sort of inspiration in mind that I kind of build off of. And oh, nope, no Facebook sounds. Bad. Mute. Okay. Yeah, usually I'll have some sort of inspiration in mind for a concept that I want to encapture, or like a theme that I want to build on. And for this track, it was purely just I want to have fun and experiment with sound design in different styles. So that was very different for me, and it was I think I'm very glad I did, because this is a fun track to make. And so I experimented with a lot of trance stuff, as you could hear throughout, and a lot of experimental sound design that I hadn't really done before. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to break it down chronologically, beginning to end, and kind of just the elements of each section and how they work and stuff. So there's not much percussion in the very beginning. It is mostly just pads and effects. So we've got this cymatics impact, can't go wrong with cymatics. And a lot of the stuff happening in the very beginning is over in this synths group. I call it synths if it's anything that's like kind of like a melodic carrier of the track that's not a bass or like an intro element, you know. So I've got this glockenspiel going in the background. That's an instrument that I really like. I was in marching band in high school, and so a lot of like keyboard instruments that you would hear in like the front ensemble is what it's called, is stuff that I like to use in my tracks. So I have that, a marimba, the staple in like all of my tracks, kind of tucked in the background here, but it adds a little bit of atmosphere that wouldn't be there otherwise, and kind of like a bass line. Like if it's gone, it definitely sounds like it's missing something, but it kind of fills in that low end.
Make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer in every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
And the last thing is this pad that I made. I think I took a choir sound. What I did is I took a choir and I put it through tons of reverb, and then I put it in sampler and have it to where it loops this last part of the choir sound here, so that it can be sustained forever. But I also put another OTT and a reverb after it and a delay, so it's just this big choir pad. And that's filling up the chords and kind of setting the progression for the intro. But that's about all for that beginning part there. And this part is very similar to what was happening before. It just kind of builds on it. Don't tell anyone I did this, but I sampled an Ariana Grande a cappella. She better not come after me and take down the track. But I kind of chopped up the vocals, pitched them up and stuff. That's going on in the background, rising here. Yeah, this track was so fun because I kind of just like threw a lot of elements together, and like I don't usually do that, so it's just fun to kind of get. Now I'm thinking about it, the title of the song is very indicative of like the state of mind. Like I was definitely in a flow state when I was working on this. I got it done pretty quickly, and it was just like pretty natural. Anyway, that's a tangent. I don't even remember what this is. All right, so I've got a pluck going on there. Oh yeah, and here percussion starts to come in as well. So I've got a lot of like glitched out. I tend to put like chain sounds in my intro. I like that a lot because it's got like the twinkly high end that you don't find in many instruments or like synthesizers. So like this is going up to fill up that intro and like build up. That's interesting. So this drum fill is there to like fill up the space going into the big trance section. I took this drum fill and I put a resonator over it with a chord on it. don't steal this. This is one of my secrets for my sound. I like to use Resonator and Ableton a lot for that kind of melodic chord-based sound in a lot of my stuff. So I put that on this drum break, and it adds like that tonal quality. If I take it off, it just sounds like, and with it's like, there you go. Nobody become Mesa clones, please. But yeah, there's also effects going on here. I added this big old hardstyle kick, which is really fun, with a thick old reverb. I don't know why this is here. This is a weird sound, but I guess it's kind of just to build that ambience there. It sounds almost out of key. I don't know why I put that there, but it works. And then just this noise sweep. It's not a huge thing. Alright, I think that's it for this whole intro section. So now for the fun part, trance time. Drums here are very simple. It's just like a kick to start it off and claps. I compressed it and distorted it a little bit with the Ableton drum bus. Without it sounds like, so it kind of thickens it up a bit. I just like the sound it had, so I did it. Oh yeah, I didn't explain that. So I had I think a really good thing to do to create cohesion in your tracks is to kind of tease elements that come later in the earlier section. So I have this trance synth kind of building up with the frequency shifter, so that kind of sneaks in. Yeah, so it doesn't just like come in all of a sudden and like, wow, now it's a trance song. It kind of like builds up. And I really like to do the frequency shifter thing because it kind of masks the notes. Like you don't know what the melody is until like the very end, and you're like, oh, that's a melody, not just a sound. Can we see the patch for that? Absolutely, yeah. I don't even remember how I made it. This is like a year ago, or over a year ago at this point. So I want to remember how I made it too. I know that I've been incorporating the trance sound in a lot of my newer stuff as well. So it's mostly just detuned saws. Wait, this is weird. Mostly just detuned saws that you modulate very little somehow. So this is just like 2 detuned saws. They're in the same octave. Interesting. I don't know why I did it like I did it. But there's also this little envelope here. So instead of just being a sustained sound, it is pitched going down. So not pitched down, the amplitude envelope goes down. A little bit of delay, then compression, then reverb to kind of give it some space. Without that kind of stuff, it tends to sound flat with trance kind of sense. You need that consistency to like fill in those gaps. Like it sounds way too dry if I do that. When you add these in, it kind of helps it to shine. But yeah, that's that. I really need to look at the chat. People are asking questions. 1 second. I'm gonna break down this bass thing here. It's a really weird bass. I remember like in my mind as I was working, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to put there, and I was like, this is good enough. But I didn't want anything too flashy in the intro. I wanted to let the drop have its own space to shine. So it's just this very simple bass pluck thing. That might be a cymatics wavetable. I don't know what that wavetable is, but that's the bass with a band reject filter. Kind of carves out a little bit of the sound. It makes it sound kind of hollow and neat. And it's very, very, very distorted. That's kind of what gives it its sound. And I scooped out a bunch in the 100 to 200 hertz range because I don't like it. Like it tends to get really muddy there. So like with it, it sounds really yucky, and then without it, all better. So that's going on there. Not much happening other than those 2 elements. Like there's this little sweep, this sweep. I think this is an impact sound. Yeah, I use this Impact in like all of my tracks. It's an Impact that I made in like 2016 that I continually use in everything because I love it. But yeah, that's about what's going on here. I'm gonna look at the chat real fast because I don't want to neglect any questions that you guys have. In your opinion, can you produce a whole song in just headphones? I do it all the time. Yes. I have studio monitors, but I don't have the opportunity to use them very much because both of my parents work from home right now, especially during quarantine and all that. So there's not really a viable time for me to use them. So I've gotten accustomed to using my headphones. And also I have an apartment that's near campus at the school that I go to. So when school is in session and stuff, I'm over there and I don't have my studio monitors. So I've gotten used to headphones and that's always worked well for me. Are those the M50X? Yes, they are. I like them a lot. I got them a couple years ago. And I think I'm going to continue using these because I like a lot. The clarity that they have. And I found that my mixes got a lot better once I got used to using these headphones. How'd you get that dope rave synth in the intro? It's insane. Mine are never as powerful in phase and mono. I don't know how good this one is in mono. Let's check. I have a keyboard shortcut in Ableton. You can map key shortcuts. How do you do it? I think it's Control M. Yes. Oh, I don't have it on this one. This is before I started doing that. But on my newer projects, I have a keyboard shortcut set to a utility on my master where I just press M and it activates this to put it in mono. I'm gonna do that real fast just so we can like listen. Let's see if it does phase in mono. You definitely lose a little bit of the power of it. But that's just kind of the nature of that kind of synth. And this is also in 2019, so I did some things that I wouldn't have done if I were to have made the track now. Some way you can make it better is to have like a mono version of the synth that's layered over it so that you still have that bass there, and so you don't have just the stereo sound that's like phasing out. So you can like add another layer that gives it that bass in mono. Let's see. I love Expand 2. The sounds are very natural. Yeah, I use it a lot for pads and stuff. Can you touch on your experience with the mindset of actual flow state and how you get in it sometimes? That's interesting. Okay. Yes. So it's not very often that it happens, but lately I've been able to do it more and more just because of like time crunches, and I've been trying to finish a remix a lot lately. As far as flow state, I think for me, the biggest thing is to make sure that you are only focusing on producing music. Close your browser, put your phone away, put your phone on do not disturb. Like, just don't allow yourself to focus on anything other than what you're working on. And I think once you get past those initial 10-15 minutes of trying to get into the zone, at least for myself, I write much better music when I am like in the zone, focused on working on music. That doesn't happen all the time, but it's starting to happen more and more, and I think it's a thing that you can develop. So general idea there is just to eliminate all distractions you possibly can. What volume are you mixing on your headphones? I don't have monitors. I always feel like I'm mixing too quiet or too loud. I do both. Typically when I'm mixing, it's fairly loud, which I don't think is the right option most of the time. I think I find that when I'm mixing quieter, I can hear when things stick out too much. So I think it's a healthy combination of both. I want to listen to loud because I want to see if it's like forceful and if it would work in a live situation, but I'll listen quietly to make sure everything is balanced properly. So it's a little bit of both. There's a balance that has to happen there. But I'm going to continue on with breaking down this trance intro. Later on, I think the only thing that's added here is I have this counter melody type thing. It's like a harmony that comes along with it. So it's this. On its own sounds kind of weird, but it works when it's layered with everything. It's also panning around a little bit. I also added in those vocal chops again. Definitely reversed. And then things start to build here with these risers. Is this the exact same? Why did I layer the same thing over itself? at the same volume. Okay. And then this vocals kind of sweeps in. And then we're at the build up. I added this vocal that I found in, was it Splice? I think it was, no, it couldn't have been Splice because it would have been named differently. I don't know where I got this vocal, but I had it on my computer and I was like, this works.
Roughneck sound, roughneck sound, roughneck, roughneck sound, roughneck sound, roughneck, roughneck sound, roughneck sound, roughneck, roughneck sound,
and it just kind of gets faster.
Roughneck sound, roughneck sound, roughneck sound, roughneck sound, roughneck.
And then drop happens. But there's also more that happens in the build. That's not the only thing. I don't remember what this is. I've just got this like saw wave that pitches up and down to kind of build up to the drop. And then this pre-drop. It sounds kind of resonant and weird because I've got this corpus on it. It's basically like a really short delay that you can tune to a pitch, and it's in the key of the song, G. So like as a little feedback kind of sound.
Hey DJ, gonna let the beat flow. Hey DJ, gonna let the beat flow.
Yeah. What else is happening in this build-up section? I did this like harp type thing and expand. And the bass is just sitting at one note to kind of start to tease the drop. I tend to not want too much movement in my build-ups so that the drop has more impact. Well, I say that, but then the next track I'm gonna break down, there's a lot of movement in the bass and the... Anyway, and this track, I decided not to let the bass move much in the build. And then the synth continues to happen here. I just kind of chopped up the beginning of each little section here. This is building in the same rhythm as that vocal that we looked at earlier, this one.
Roughneck sound, 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 roughneck sound.
So drums here are fairly simple. Hello? No, no. Oh. I've got this snare and this clap that was really scary. Snare and this clap kind of building up in rhythm over time. This kick is a Xylent kick I really liked. I think, did I use it for the drop or use a different kick? I used a different kick, an AU5 kick apparently. Yeah, this track is fairly simple in relation to other tracks that I've worked on. And time for the drop. So there's this little tease to that downbeat bass here at the very end of the just show your sidechain routing. Yes, I'll do that in 1 second. This little tease to the downbeat sound at the very end of the build. I don't remember how I made this. I'm gonna have to remember. A lot of frequency shifter moving around to make it sound just wacky and weird. So it's just I want to say this is just like an FM sound that I moved a frequency shifter around a lot, and I panned to two different sides. That's why it's on two different tracks there. I wonder what it sounds like without the frequency shifter. Is that the main bass? Yep. I think it's one of the, or it's either an FM sound that's stretched out or like the main bass that's super stretched. But it's weird. Can you show your sidechain routing? Yes, I will do that. So I've got different groups for my drums, my synths, which is like melodic stuff, my basses, my subs, effects, and then I don't remember what this is. Is it anything? I don't think it's anything. Cool. But sometimes I'll put tracks outside of the groups if I don't want them to be sidechained, or if they're like vocals or something like that, just to separate them. And I've got all of these different groups except for the drums routed to this sidechained send. So in Ableton, you can set your output to sends only, and it is only going to send A. So like usually it defaults to master because you want it to go straight out, but you can set it to sends only so that it's only going to the sends, and this send is going to the master. And so everything on this sidechained send is being sidechained by this sidechained input MIDI. I'm using Shaperbox to, why am I looking up there? The camera's here. I'm using Shaperbox to just have a volume curve happen every time this MIDI note hits, and it hits on every kick and snare. Did I do it here? Sometimes I'll make the, no I didn't, but sometimes I'll make the intensity of that volume curve less in the intros than it is in the drop. I didn't do that here. Here I this is my sidechain curve. It's 2.15 hertz. So this would happen 2.15 times per second. It's pretty quick. This is what it sounds like without drums, I guess. Wait, that's the second drop. Whoopsie. Actually, this is a fairly long sidechain based on what I usually do, I think. But yeah. I want everything to cut out all the way so the drums will just like slap you, you know? Off subject question, what computer are you using for production? This was produced on a different computer than the one I'm currently using. It was like a Lenovo Flex 4 or something, not really suitable for production. I bought a Dell G315 recently, and I really like that for production and streaming and stuff. Yeah. How did you compose the trance arps? Did you use a MIDI art plugin or just write in the notes? I like to write in the notes. So I, in this trance section, I just wrote in all the notes. I had the idea of the melody first, so I kind of just put in these top notes first. Can I just mute these bottom ones for now? So that was the kind of melody idea I had in my head, so I just wrote that down. And then usually you'll just put bass notes in wherever there isn't a melody note in like a trance lead. I don't listen to much trance, I just kind of made this up. But every time, there's only one note playing at any given time, and whenever there's like an empty space, I'll put a bass note there. So there's... And notice that the bass is the only thing that moves here. These notes here stay, well, that's a lot of reverb, stay constant throughout this whole section. They don't tend to move around that much. Like, it'll like change a little bit in each section, but yeah, so that's that. Nothing fancy, but I did draw in the notes manually and just like copy paste them a bunch. I tend to like to work like manually when it comes to notes rather than using things like ARPs. I don't know, maybe it's just like a mental thing with having more control over it and like being able to do small variations. But yeah, the drop. I have it soloed, don't I? So this was a super fun drop. I'll start with like the top and go down like I have been. Drums aren't that fancy. It's just a reverse sweep snare here, two different hi-hats, a more open one and a more closed one. I have these compressors here to sidechain them with the kick and snare, but I don't know if they're actually... Yeah, these aren't doing anything. This is just from a template that I used to use. So ignore these. But I put a little bit of reverb on it and EQ'd out the mud, because I don't like to have a lot of low end in my hats. Like, and more natural sounding drums like this, there can be a lot of low end in your hat sounds because they're not synthesized, and that's just kind of how sound works. And I'll usually take that out for my hats. Kick snare. I think this is an AU5. Well, it says AU5 kick, but I might have made my own and put it here. This is my kick, actually. Yes, I made this. I forgot how I made it, but I did. I think I combined samples for this, but the snare is that. Is that a somatic snare? Yes, it is a terror snare, layered with a tail from a chime snare. Give it that background so it's not just doot, but it's got some like space to it. And so that's it for the drums. I've got a little bit of background synth stuff going on here. There's a little bit of a super saw in the beginning to kick off the drop, give it a sense of like melody or like harmony. This is going on in the background to fill up space. It's this weird chord. It's like the 1, 2, and 3 of the scale, I believe. Yeah. What made you want to throw all those samples in Drum Rack? Well, I think I saw very briefly a Panda Eyes live stream where he had I don't use this anymore, actually. I'm trying to like wean myself off of samples and start making my own drums, even though it's a pain, and I usually end up going back to samples. But he had a thing where he had a rack, just had a bunch of his favorite kicks and a bunch of his favorite snares in another rack and a bunch of his favorite hi-hats. And I was like, that's smart, because if you don't like the snare you're currently on, you can just like move it, and you don't have to go search for a different sample and then put it on the grid a bunch of times. And so like, if I'm like, that's not that good, I'm gonna be like, I definitely like the other snare better. But like, yeah, you can just move it, and that's a really handy way to not have to copy and paste the snare a bunch of times if you want to change it and stuff. But yeah, there's this background thingy here, just the 3 notes. It's like a little super saw type thing. It's very subtle. It's just to fill it up. Yeah, it's a... Oh, they're not detuned. Oh yeah, they are. The chorus does it. And it's panning left and right because it's just a background thing. I'll do the drop, the basses last. Just a noise sweep here. A little chant. Nothing big. Alright, the moment you've all been waiting for. The basses and flow. I got like 3 main layers for this main bass right here. I think I already broke down the intro stab thingy. I also put this growl here. What is this from? I think this is a growl that someone else made that I just glitched out. Like I stretched it out and put a phaser and 4 OTTs on it. Classic dubstep. So it complements these weird FM sounds well. And I've also got like a little sub here. That's interesting. So over time, it starts to... I'm using that same Shaper Box plugin that I use for sidechaining to make it over time sweep instead of staying at a consistent volume, because it sweeps with the synths. And so I think I automated the mix. Yeah. So when I want it to be sustained, I just have the mix all the way down. And when I want it to sweep with it, I have the mix all the way up. So, so there's that. Basses time. Now I've got 3 main layers going on. I'll just like show each one for a brief moment. There is this one. It's just a FM sound that I made an operator. There wasn't much thought process to many of these. It was just kind of messing around and having fun, which is different from what I usually do. But yeah, you can see there's an EQ here that does absolutely nothing. There's resonators again. I tend to put chords on there and stuff. The dry wet is automating, so it's not always just a chord. It's just like moving. I tend to do my chord-based type stuff a little bit differently now, but that's how I did it there. I have this Rack of Joy that I made a long time ago, and I still use on most of my sounds for post-processing. That's got a lot of just different tools. There's an OTT, an interesting type of distortion where you distort the low end really heavily and then cut it back out at the end, so it's not super boomy and weird. But I like the sound of the lows distorting a lot. So I'll tend to keep the sub in my sound design so that I can do that distortion thing. I didn't do it here. And then I'll cut the lows out after. I don't know why I put the reduce ambience preset on here. It adds a little bit. I cut out the sharp highs with this EQ because like with any kind of FM sound, you want to be mindful that you might have some really piercing frequencies in the highs just because of how FM works. So I cut out a little bit here because I believe there is high end coming from other things like the hi-hats. One of the other bass layers I think had some stuff with high end as well. I did the same shaper box thing where over time it goes from just being a sustained thing to sweeping. And yeah, that's the first layer. The second one is a fun one, I think. Yeah. This is growly thing. I don't remember how I made this. It's been over a year. Let's look at it. Yeah, it's the Deep Throat wavetable from Massive. I like that one a lot because it's got a really gritty sound to it. Pro tip, when you want to make growly things, pick wavetables that are very short and like clicky, because that's how you'll get that kind of like throaty sound. So this one's like a very short stab and the rest of the wave is silent, and so that makes it a really good wavetable for growly stuff. But it's just being filtered by this bandpass notch. The bandpass moves up. Is it the macro that does that? I can't tell. Oh, it's this, and then it sits at the end. Yeah. So I have that filter. I think that's what's doing the bulk of the growly stuff. There's got to be a phaser in there somewhere. Yep. And that's also moving up and giving it a band reject. Filtering is very important for growly sounds, and I did a lot of that in this sound. Without the filter stuff, it sounds dumb. With this one, with the band reject, and finally the big boy, the phaser. The phaser is like the main bulk of the sound on this one. I put some dimension expander on there to give it some space. Distortion. Not a big deal in this patch. And then of course multi-band compression. Without this really brings up all the stuff that's happening before it, and then with. And here I am using that distortion technique I was talking about with the big sub distortion, because I have the sub in here going direct out. Wait, is it actually doing anything? Just kidding, it's all the way down, so I didn't really do it here. But typically I'll have a sub that's going through getting distorted. I'll show that in my next song, because it is doing it there. But this is distorting it, making it crunchy. And that's about it for the sound. I didn't do any EQing after. Interesting. I just used the EQ that I have in this rack that I made. I've got a low cut knob that controls a high pass filter. High cut controls a low pass filter. Ouchie cut, which I think cuts around the 3K, 4K range. Yeah, 4.7. Because that's where a lot of harshness can be. So, and then a power bump is I think the mids. Yeah, I didn't want it here because it already had a good mid presence. All right, so that's that growly layer paired with this one we talked about before. And then we got a third layer, which is the big chord man. What did I do here? Oh my gosh. So this is just a simple FM kind of stab thingy. And without the chord bass stuff and post-processing, it just sounds like this. So a lot of it comes from the post-processing in this sound. You've got this chord stuff, which is resonators like I talked about before. It's just, what I did here is I made a huge rack that has a all of the different chords for each note in the scale, and you can change the root note here, and it'll change all of the root notes on each of these, but it'll keep the because in the resonators, the pitches of the other resonators are based on the first one. And so like they're all relative, and this switches between whether the chord is major or minor, so it'll change these. I want to say it. Does it work? I don't know if I did it right on this, but what it should do is change the third and the seventh to move to their respective places, whether the chord is major or minor. Oh no, this is which chord. I don't have a major or minor thing on here. Here's the knob that extends it to the ninth, because I have, usually for my things, it's the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and then I'll do the ninth if I'm feeling it. Usually I'm feeling it, so without it, I like that sound of the ninth chord a lot, so I tend to do it. The dry wet is just kind of up on this one. Sometimes I'll automate it, sometimes I'll just keep it up. On this one I just kept it up because I wanted it to be primarily a chord layer and not just like a bass of its own. And then that same rack, beefing it up. And there are the 3 layers. So together, thick mode, and also of course a sub. So yeah. This was really fun. Like I said, with this track, I just kind of threw stuff together. This is a lot of really high-pitched saw waves. Yeah. The octave control is being controlled by this little LFO that kind of sweeps up. It's really weird. It goes really high and gets really annoying, and it's got a low pass on it. This distortion, I think, is what really makes it. Yes, that's what it sounds like without, and then this just completely destroys the sound. And then there's another one that's just staying at the root note that's lower. It's kind of the same thing where it's just big distortedness. This one does not move on the octave, but the distortion is there. So that's that. A little break here. I like to do that in my songs to give them a sense of melody. Like I said, I like to make melodic and heavy stuff. Oh, it's 1:41. I need to get going. I like to make stuff that's melodic and heavy. So I want to make songs sound like songs, not just like sound design nerding. So I'll add in like stuff like this. Of course, the marimba, because I'm a Sora. And then this is like a pan flute. Let's see. Oh, it's the bottle blow wavetable. Yeah, I like this one a lot. There's a wavetable in Serum called Bottle Blow. It sounds like you're like blowing on the top of a bottle, like a Coke bottle, and it sounds cool, like a pan flute almost. And you can automate the wavetable position to make it sound almost like a flute. This is a weird lead, but I did that to kind of like fill in the every 4 bars so it doesn't sound like it drags on, and there's a little bit of evolution in the track over time. I don't remember how I made that. That's how I made it. It's just very slightly detuned. I've got this wah-wah wavetable that's in the vowel section of Serum. It comes with it. And
Make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer. In every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
and which is a delay, a chorus, and then an OTT. Nothing fancy. And then a marimba rising. What is this? Oh, those are the supercells. What is this thing? I think this is like little glitched out versions of the main sound to fill it up. Yep. So, no, this is a glitched out version of a sound that I made before, I think. It's like a little growly sound. Let's see. I'm gonna unwarp it and see what it sounds like on its own. Yeah, it's like a little growly sound that's glitched out, and then I stretched it and did weird stuff. Alright, second half of the drop. Second half of the drop, I really made use of this little glitchy saw thing. Obviously, I had to very heavily EQ this because if I kept the lows in here, it would break ears. It just sounds yucky. But that's like the carrier of this section. I remember how I made this. This is something I recorded a long time ago. So you know the sound. So you know how a comb has like these smaller spikes at one end and like bigger at the other. When you like pull your finger across them, it makes this really cool sound. So I took my field recorder and recorded the sound of me like pulling across the comb, and then I put a lot of effects on it. This is like the big thing. And the phaser. It's a really fun sound. Yeah, but that's what's happening there. And then big melody. And then stuff. There's a lot of just like minor sounds that come in and flow. This is like weird growl. What is happening? Is it just white noise? It is. Wow. This is weird. It's so weird to look back at this and like see what I did, because like I don't remember the process of making this, because it was the type of thing where I just kind of jumped in and just did stuff and it worked out fine. So it's this growl is just the sub hitting and noise. That's so weird. Okay. This is definitely an FM sound. I can hear it. I called it Xylent 1. It moves between different sync values in this wavetable. If I stop that, that's what's gonna also this flanger moving. Those two things are what give this the change in tonality over time that you hear with these steps. Without it, it sounds stupid. There you go. What is this? Alright, so this one, that's definitely frequency shifter. Yeah, I like the sound that putting a frequency shifter on stuff gives, because it'll like if you're at 150 beats per minute, -5 hertz and 2.5 hertz are both going to be in tempo with your song, and so those are both important to the tonality of the sound. With just this one, it's, and then with both, it's really fun. And this frequency shifter before it is just, it's 100% dry wet. Yeah, also noting, these are both at 50% dry wet, so you're hearing the original with the frequency shifted thing, and that's what's giving it that weird warbly sound. This one is 100% dry wet. It's just moving around and being weird. I don't know if the actual sound itself is very impressive. No, it's just like this growly wavetable modulating a sine wave with a lot of effects. And this is just a supporter of that. How did I make that? That's a cool sound. It's just a bandpass on a square. There's so many, like, I don't know. Diving into this track is so interesting because I don't remember how I made this stuff. And as you can hear, it kind of breaks out in these two parts. And to fill in that space, I just added this like rhythm sweep thing. And this is another glitchy thingy of stretching out stuff. Alright, it's 1:48 here, and I still got another track to cover, so I'm going to be pretty brief through the rest of this because I really want to show you the unreleased one. What's in your Racco Joy there? I covered it a little bit earlier, but it's a lot of post-processing that I just tend to use. So there's an OTT, that Buzzy Distortion. The metal thing, I believe, is a chorus. Yeah, no, this is, I think, a flanger. It's one of Ableton's. This is a flanger. Yeah, so the metal stuff is like the flanger. What sound is that? I'm trying to show it off. It gives a little bit of like a metallic sound, and there's a reverb after it, and an EQ with all of these settings here, and a glue compressor to kind of flatten everything out. This is really just used as a limiter, like it's not doing any compression here. And then utility to make it quieter after. And yeah, that's about it for the Racco Joy. All right, I'm gonna move on to the breakdown section. The drops is, I think I covered everything in here. Little sub drop. Brought the vocal back. I made a little Reese thing here. Is it this? Yes. It's got the fifth that's like going up and down there. I added that in separate. I think there is a way you could make it do that through here and like increasing this harmonic, but I just did it with another sine wave. But that's happening there. It's a square, detuned, low pass everything. Very simple. I did that sweep there because I've got an impact and I didn't want the bass to clash between those two things. There's that choir pad again. Same melody in here as before. Very simple drums going on. There's the AU5 snare. Oh, I also glitched it out here. But yeah, in my intros and stuff, I like to fill it out with percussion because I'm a percussionist. That's just something I like to do. That's 150. I'm gonna keep going. Same sound as before. Just sweeping in slowly. Yeah, most of the elements here are the same as in the earlier section, except for the Reese. Sorry, except for the Reese, and just kind of repurposed. This is identical to this section, so I'm going to skip it. And the second drop, not much is different. I did a little bit of automation to change the, I want to say the chord of the resonators on here. And yes. That high pitch is different between the two drops. Yeah, it's lower here and then it's higher here. So it's just kind of changing the chord to give it a little bit of variation. And I like to sweep things in with the frequency shifter. Again. Yeah, so really the only difference here is that chord. It also switches again here. Yeah, that's like the only change there. Let's go. And this is identical. If you got any last minute questions for this track, now is your time to ask because I'm about to move on. But I don't think there's anything else noteworthy in here. And then there's just that hard style kick because why not? There you go. And that is Flow, ladies and gentlemen. Why did I save it? It doesn't matter. Hi Raymart, how are you doing? What about the master? Oh, thank you. That's a good thing I wanted to cover as well. So for mastering, I think my process has not changed. Yeah. So literally, it's just two things. It is an OTT between 3 and 5%, depending on what the track needs. It's a very subtle thing that I didn't really notice the difference between until like I listened to it. So it's not huge. It just kind of helps flatten everything together to make it sound cohesive. Without it, I'm gonna toggle it off and on and just watch as I turn it off and on. It just glues everything together slightly, and I like that sound. And then a clip shifter. Now this is the thing that's doing the bulk of the mastering. It's literally just a soft clipper, and I'm turning up the input gain so that it's clipping or like limiting. It's like a limiter, but it is much sharper. It doesn't actually do any compression. It just clips it when it goes over, and I really like that sound. And it's just boosting it 2.9 decibels more than what the mix down was. You might notice that there's also an ozone here, but that's literally just to check the RMS, like everything is turned off. I just want to check my levels. I didn't realize how loud this track was. But yeah, that's it there. And then a span to look at the frequency curve of it. Make sure the mix looks good. So on a mix down, you're gonna want usually the sub to be like pretty significantly above everything else, and then everything else to kind of like be kind of flat but like tapering off a little bit toward the end. If I were to mix this again, I would probably have less in this midsection here and around here, but that's the general use of the analyzer for me. But yeah, that is flow. That's my master. All right, cool. I also have this live show simulator thing here. I like to do that to get a sense of what my track would sound like in a live environment. It's like a big reverb, or a little reverb. Yeah, turning that on gives me a good sense of whether or not the track would work well live, because it collapses everything to mono, so you're checking mono compatibility. You've got the little reverb like being in a room and stuff, so if the song sounds hype through that, then it'll sound hype live. All right, next. Why not? All right, it's probably gonna take a bit for this to open, but this next one, I'll go ahead and introduce it. I wrote notes because I don't want to skip anything. So this next one is a track called Prism. And it took me a while to settle on the title because it's a part of an EP that I've been working on for over a year at this point. And the EP is called Reset Environment. And so every track that I had started with the title like RE, because I wanted to like kind of link the tracks together like that. So the working title was Refraction, like RE_fraction. Like everything is like a pun. That's like not a pun, but like two separate words that work together as one word that starts with RE. And we had that going for the concept of the EP, but we thought about the fact that stores would probably not like that formatting, and it would be really hard to title things on YouTube videos and such for the label that I want to release it with. And so I also gave them like actual titles that work. So Prism is what I called it, but it's inspired. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I'm a Christian, and that's a really big part of what I do in my music and my goal in the scene. And this EP in general is very much inspired by that. And like it's inspired by the biblical concept and revelation of like a new heaven and new earth, kind of like everything being recreated. And that was really inspiring to me. So I made an EP around that concept, and Prism, or Refraction, is based on the concept of me wanting to be like a light to the world. The concept of like God shining his light into me and me shining that onto other people. It's like refracting it in a way. And so that's what I did here. Yeah, this is very different from Flow. Flow is just like, let's have fun. This one has like more meaning to it. But is there anything else? Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna play it and break it down because I don't have much time left.
is spreading. The world will be illuminated. Refraction. Is spreading. The world will be illuminated. Refraction.
And there it be, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go kind of fast through this, so I'm only gonna cover the major stuff in here in each section. So this intro is very kind of atmospheric. I just got a lot of stuff going on, different pads filling things up. And it was weird because with this track, it was like an idea that I hadn't really worked on for months, because like this EP I've been working on for over a year and I'm just trying to like finish it at this point. But this would be the last track of the EP. But this intro here is very atmospheric. I added in a Xylent pad here, or two different ones that switch chords. So that's going on there. There's this pad. Oh, it's these pluck sounds. It's like a music box. Oh, it's a this thing. I don't know how to pronounce that, but it sounds plucky and good. Valhalla Shimmer. I did not have this when I made Flow, but it's one of my favorite reverbs now for atmospheric stuff. You can set it to where it pitch shifts the things that go into it. Like, it's a very unique reverb. It'll like pitch shift things over time. So what's happening is it'll like go up in octaves with this feedback thing. Without it, it's kind of boring. With amazing reverb. It's only $50. Definitely recommend. Piano. It's filtering up over time. I think there's some stuff happening in the FX section with that vocal. Where is that vocal? I don't know. But I got some birds chirping in the background because I wanted to add some like fantasy kind of ambience here. I pitch shifted it up a lot too, or frequency shifted it up so it sounds kind of not quite natural and weird. And it's also going through Valhalla Shimmer for big space. Impact here, easy. A little sweep at the end of that intro section. Oh, here's the vocal. Of course, Shimmer again. And then the main melody comes in. Or like teases the main melody. And like a supporting piano as well. I have like 3 different pianos here. Yeah, I got a lot of piano action happening here. Same pad. Strings come in. And then it kind of builds to the main motif section. This is also in the background here. And then it builds to the actual melody. So I'm like teasing the melody here, building it up, and then actual stuff happens. Drums are very simple. It's just a tambourine. Yeah, where the filter is coming down. And I also added like a clap here. Do you use any contact libraries for instruments, or is it more so stock stuff? It's definitely stock. I don't have the money for contact libraries. So Ableton has a lot of really good built-in stuff if you get Suite. I don't know if it comes with every editions, but it comes with this string ensemble that I really like. It doesn't sound super natural because like the nature of sampling and that it's not a contact library, but it works for my purposes. This piano is also Ableton. The marimba is also Ableton. But yeah, the main melody is on both the piano and the marimba. This is kind of syncopated. If I remember, yeah, whoa, this is the track that I got. I had a dream one night and I'd woke up with that melody in my head and I was like, I gotta put that in a song. And so that's how the song started. Wow, interesting. Note the Ableton stock piano and strings for anyone wondering what overpriced contact library to buy. Yeah, you don't need them for most cases. Like if you're making a film score, then you'll probably want it because you're going to want the dynamics that come with the contact libraries. But for most people's purposes, especially in EDM, this is totally fine. You don't have to break your wallet for... Break your wallet? What? Empty your bank account for contact libraries. And then here, the strings and the piano kind of continue, and I add more pads. A lot of note movement to make it sound kind of mysterious, because that's where the vocal comes in. And then this weird ravey synth. Yeah. I used an arpeggiator on this. I remember Alex asking about that earlier. So I did use an arpeggiator here because I didn't want to draw in all of those notes because it stays the same the whole time. I used a synth called Hybrid. It was very cheap on Plugin Boutique one day, and I was like, what the heck, I'll try it out. It's got a lot of really good like trancey presets, and I'm very glad I got it. And this is one of those. Oh no, did the stream go down? Heck. I hope the stream's not being dumb. Is it back? Is the stream okay? please. I hope we're good. I saw that it was going out on my screen. I'm going to assume that it's good because I can see the preview here, and I'm just going to keep going. Also, it's being recorded, so worst case scenario, video is going to be up. All right, cool. We're good. So that's happening there. Just being filtered a little bit. Nothing fancy. This Yo Man chorus is giving it a lot. Kind of making it sound more metallic. Alright, people are saying it's good. Yay. Froze for like 2 seconds. Oh, yeah, my internet is kind of spotty at this part of my house, but my mom was working in her office that I usually use for the feedback streams, so I can't like do anything about that. But I'm glad it's back. That's nice. But yeah, pads come in here. And this vocal, very interesting. I found this text-to-speech online when I just searched text-to-speech, and I recorded it using Audacity because you can use Audacity to loop back your audio from your computer and record it. And it had this setting with like different speeds and pitches, and I was just messing with it and trying to put it to extremes, and I noticed that if I put the pitch, it was either like all the way up or all the way down stupidly. It made this really glitchy, dumb sounding vocal, and I was like, that would be perfect to use in a dubstep track. So it's this.
The light is spreading.
Like, this is just what came out of the text-to-speech. It just was bad. And so, oh no, I put never mind, there's a lot of effects here. I'll take that off for now.
The light is spreading.
That's what it sounded like straight out of the text-to-speech, and I was like, that's stupid. And then this one.
The world will be illuminated.
And then I put effects on it. A lot of stuff to make it sound resonant. So corpus, resonators yet again, grain delay, just a lot of stuff to make it sound glitchy and choppy and weird. And then some reverb. I think that's what that space rack is doing. Reverb, delay, and then dry. Yeah. So that's it.
The light is spreading. The world will be illuminated.
Now a lot is happening in this build. Virtual Riot Riser, Serum Riser that I made. I think what makes it fade out is a reverb that I put on it that like comes in slower than everything else. Yeah, there's a reverb here, and in Serum you can change the curve of everything that's being automated. So I made this come in much more slowly as the knob went up. This one knob is like doing everything except the rhythmic stuff. It's 2:12, I gotta go fast. But yeah, all these elements from earlier in the track come in again in big mode. Also this and sub. This big old choir. This is another choir. And here the melody splits into two separate things, if I remember correctly. Or is that a completely separate track? But there's like a harmony that happens within the melody. Yeah, the marimba splits up and starts doing a harmony instead of the melody right there. The kick, oh, there's a 909 snare. I like to do that in my builds now with a delay. A sharper transient. Without it sounds like that. With, I just wanted it to be sharper so it cut through the mix more. It goes up in pitch toward the end there. I think I did that in the MIDI automation. Yeah, it's toward the end. Pitch is up there. The kick, it's got a high pass on it that kind of sneaks up as the build progresses. Is that on the drums? Yeah, it's on all the drums. and then it kind of sneaks back down toward the end. And that's that. And then drop.
Refraction.
Alright, I'm gonna be quick. Drums are fairly simple, so I'm gonna spend a lot of time on the basses because that's the interesting part. I did not budget time effectively here. I didn't expect to take so much time on flow. This is a kick that I made in Kick 2. And then a clap. Those are fairly simple. A lot of different hi-hats. What? Oh, that's a clap layer. This one's not active, so I'll skip it. A lot of different hi-hats and cymbals going on in the background here. Alright, I'm gonna just do the basses now. Oh, what is this? This is just a background piano thing. That's it. It sounds very distorted. What did I do to get that effect? Oh, I have to go over that later too. So I did something very interesting on this track that I don't ever do in any of my other tracks. So everything that you hear that is being sidechained is going to sound very distorted, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. This background pad, this little pad thing. And yes, everything is distorted, and I will show you why. This, whoa, I didn't even do that intentionally. This is literally just a chopped, oh, no, a chopped piece from Flow, which I broke down earlier. That is from the trance section of Flow.
Make your music stand out, get more views, and way more engagement. Bring your music to life. Get Music Visualizer. In every format, even for social media. Get started today. The link is in the description.
Except it's just like chopped up. Interesting. I didn't even mean to do that. Wow. And this is a big old marimba and glockenspiel sweep to fill up. So with the whole concept of refraction, I wanted to make everything sound like glassy and twinkly and like, yeah, just like glass, like a prism. And so main bass is weird. Resonator is happening again. Oh, I also did this a different way than I usually do it now. Anyway, this is a track I started like a year ago, so it makes sense. But this also does the frequency shifter thing to introduce. I like to do that a lot. This grain delay is very interesting. That's what's giving it a very glassy texture. This is happening parallel to everything else. Just a really high, weird thing with a transient shaper on it and a bit crusher. Yeah, I made this in Max for Live, actually. It's very simple. I could have just used Ableton's Redux. And then this is my Rack of Joy. We've covered that already. This is, what in the world? This is a sidechained reverb. So I didn't want the reverb to overshadow everything when the hits were happening. And so I sidechained the reverb to itself. So it's taking the audio from itself, pre the effects, and is sidechaining this reverb. So it only really comes in once the sound's not playing. Because I wanted to fill in the space, but not just be reverb everywhere. That's a weird EQ, because this is a very resonant, weird sound, so I'm taking out some harshness here. The actual sound itself is being automated a lot. It's an FM sound that's pretty high. Let me see what it sounds like without any of this. So a lot of the sound is happening within the synth. This flanger is giving it a really weird, high-pitched texture. And of course the sync on this FM going really high, and the octave of this being automated all over the place just makes this really weird, glitchy, squeaky sound that I like. Yeah, it's just a square, a very interesting square that comes with Serum in the analog section, being modulated by this triangle wave. And then I've also got this kick attack sound that happens at the beginning of each hit. To give each hit like a little bit of attack. It's not a very big thing. Distortion, compression, hyperdimension to give it a little bit of space, and chorus. That's about it for that sound. It's not a big sound. Resonator is the key. Yeah, yes. The resonator is the bulk of most of my sounds. Lately I have found some other ways to... Oh yeah, never mind. There's this washout here, and that's what kind of introduces the drop. What synth is that you're using? That is Serum, actually. I just have a different skin on it. This Prometheum skin, I believe. Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, this sweeps in the drop with this washout effect that I got from Bass Clef. So it's a good way to introduce the drop without it just kind of coming in. Kind of teases it a little bit. I was saying something, and I don't remember what it was. Yeah, I found more different ways to make chord basses than resonators lately, but that's in more recent unreleased stuff of mine. The way you and Code Pandorum slam your master is kind of mind-blowing. Yeah, it's like, I feel like limiting adds some weird compression artifacts that don't have to be there, and doing things like an OTT at 3% here and just slamming it just works. I don't know, as long as your transients are fine in the mixing stage, it's not usually going to do that much to your stuff. But yeah, if we had just this little twinkly thing here, it would still sound very empty. So I'm going to turn these off and show you. So these two things are to add a lower element to the track so it sounds more balanced. So you've got these two. They both sound distorted and yucky, but this one's got a tonal delay on it. It's another Max for Live thing that I made. It's a delay that delays at different pitches rather than... so the way a delay works is it will take a sound and then play it again after a certain amount of time. That span of time is a hertz value that is equivalent to a note. And so I made a Max for Live plugin that did that, and that's what's giving it the tonal sound without with. It's subtle. And then this one is just a low womp thing. This is like a square wave, I think. Yeah. Max for Live delay. Yeah, I made this one myself. If I open it, it might crash everything, so I'm not going to. But you can create your own devices. I took some time figuring it out and then did that thing. Very beginning of the drop, we've got this. So that's happening. I don't remember what that's from. I made it at some point, but again, just chopped up stretch stuff. And this is panning left to right. It's a really weird glitchy sound that I made in a plugin that you wouldn't normally make glitch sounds in. It's called M Harmonizer. I'm not going to go into it too much because I don't have time. But it's a harmonizer plugin. But if you set the settings right, you can make really stupid, weird sounds with it. And I did that there. So that's the main basses. The sub is here as well. I'm going to explain this before it's weird. So everything you're hearing is going through distortion right now. I did a really weird thing. I wanted this song to sound big and thick, and I could not figure out how to do it. So I was like, I'm just going to distort everything in parallel. And it only happens during the drop. And so this is... I've got this main thing, which is just everything normal. And then 5 decibels quieter, I've got this super squashed part. It's like, it's weird that that's happening below everything. And that kind of just makes it sound thicker. And I was like, that works. I don't know if I'm ever going to do that again, but it worked in this context. Sidechain here is like the same type system as before. Another interesting thing, because I wanted to keep that twinkly concept, and I liked this high end, I thought it was still missing something, so I added glass here. Layered with. Gives it a really nice twinkle, and I think the grain delay is on here as well. You hear that little tail? Yeah. It's the same effects thing that I put on the other one, but together they sound like this. It's subtle, but it's neat. So all the basses together. Now this, I don't remember how I made it. That's a Virtual Riot sound with a resonator on it, for sure. What is this one? I don't remember how I made that, but I did something. And here, on top of the sub, I add in these big distorted bass sounds. So why is everything so big? But here, the sub is kind of like plucky almost, or wobbly. And then this one is a sustained one. And keep in mind you're hearing that distortion on top of it too. And then there's this. And this. So it's just making it a thick wall of sound. And you've got this still happening. It goes up. The washout thing happens on occasion here. What is automating there to make it do that? The rate of these LFOs is just slower. So it kind of opens up for longer. The only thing that really changes in this part of the drop from the last part is this vocal. Now this part used to sound like this. And I was like, this needs more melody. So this is happening in the background here. It's a combination of a synth with a weird filter and a choir. But otherwise, this is mostly the same with like this background stuff. Main bass is slightly different. Same type sound design though, so I'm not gonna do too much with that. 3 minutes. Not much happening in terms of effects. There's just this sweep. Goes pew. And again, the distortion is happening on everything that's sidechain, so everything but the drums and the drop. And it turns off and on it turns on the drop sections and off on everything that's not a drop. So and then here, it's very similar to the intro. It's the same melody, but it's a different chord progression under everything. And I do something I usually don't do. This is a chord progression that changes over the course of like 16 bars, and usually it's just like 4-bar loops or something. Brock said extra sends ? Yes, but I don't think I'm using any of them. I put sends in my default template, but I don't end up using them most of the time. Yeah, they're not being used. Where is it? So, new chord progression. It's 229. Yeah, very similar to the intro. Exact same build.
Refresh.
I really like what I did there. So the same thing happens where the washout comes in, everything kind of turns to mush, and then here it just kind of continues on the same note, and there are no drums, so it's like building tension up to the drop. And then it starts to wash everything out again. And riser here, of course. And what's happening to the synth here is something is going up and down in the automation. I don't remember what it is. This A warp and the frequency shifter are just going crazy. Yeah, and then it gets really high pitched at the actual drop. Yeah, that has mostly to do with just the FM stuff going on. I think other than that part, this drop is identical to the first one. Yeah, my CPU is going crazy because of all of these. I think it's this synth in particular, the Super Saw with a crap ton of layers. Well, it might be. I don't know. Something's making my CPU go weird. Outro is very simple. Just ends on the one piano note. That little pluck thingy pad. And an impact. It just fades out over time. So yeah, that's it. It's 2:32 here. So if you guys have any last minute questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I will wrap up fairly soon. Yeah, Serum with a lot of voices definitely tends to destroy any kind of processing power you thought you had. I'll wait a little bit longer for questions. My mouth is so dry. I drank all of my water. Someone help me. I'm not seeing anything, and it doesn't look like the delay is too long. Alright, well, thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, wait. How's that CS degree coming along? It's going well. Quarantine made the semester simultaneously easier and harder. Almost done with the semester now. I've got one more week of classes, and then finals week, and then I'm done with this semester. Then I've got 2 more, and then I got a CS degree, which is neat. I still think I want to make music my full-time thing. We'll see how that works out. I'm going for it. Yeah, but it's going well. Thank you for asking. Any tips for getting full sounds without getting muddy? So fullness comes from all of your sounds having... So fullness in a song comes from the frequency spectrum being full. We looked at the span a little bit earlier. So you want this to have everything in an okay amount. So like make sure frequencies are present all throughout the spectrum, but muddiness happens when there's too much of any given thing in the spectrum. So usually it's going to happen in your low mids, and the way to fix that is just to EQ out mids on things that don't need mids. Not entirely, of course. You got to like do it to taste, but just having too much frequency buildup in any given area is what creates mud. So think through what elements you want to have that mid presence there, and compromise every other element that's clashing with it, or just remove them entirely. Yeah. Any routine when you start producing, like when you're just starting out, or like when I start a session. I'm gonna guess you're saying when I start a session. Not really. I'll typically set out for myself something specific I want to work on. I will usually create checklists of things that I want to work on whenever I'm not at my computer, when I'm listening to the work in progress on like SoundCloud Private or whatever, so I have a sense of what I want to do in my next production session. So mainly chords and piano on intro. Yes. That's about it. A lot of orchestral stuff, not many synths, just like pads. Tips for new producers. Number one tip would probably be to eventually graduate from the preset and tutorial mentality to experimentation. I think developing a unique sound comes in part from taking time to experiment on your own, develop your own creative vision, think through what you like in other songs that aren't even necessarily in the genre you're trying to produce, and just incorporate stuff that you enjoy from all throughout music, and experiment with your software, do stuff that you haven't really seen other people do, and you'll get a unique sound over time, and just like hone it. 3 artists you're inspired from. Must Die, number 1. 2 others, I guess Chime to an extent with the melodic stuff. A 3rd artist that I'm inspired from. Must Die, of course, is my top favorite, has been for a while. I said Chime. I can't really think of a 3rd. I'm tired. I'm so sorry. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of wave recently. It's a genre that I haven't really, like, it's a sound that I had heard before, but I didn't know what to call it, and I found it recently, and it made me really happy. So I've listened to a lot of that and put that kind of stuff in my music. And there's an artist called Skeller, Skeler, that does really cool wave stuff, and another one called Enjoy, Enjoii, that I really enjoy. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna call it here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and yeah, peace.